so hold on a second. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So today we're talking about the science of art and self-care. We're going to be pretty science heavy for the majority of this, probably the first chunk. I have thought about potentially this morning, I was thinking because you'll be ending at such a late time, we might switch up the process a little bit and do a later part earlier, just to get you guys doing art sooner rather than later and get to experience some of this right away, if that's okay with you guys. So as an artist, I tend to be a bit leaning towards thinking on my feet, and sometimes I'll change things up depending on what the needs are, which as I explain more about how the art works and kind of the neuroscience of the different materials and how that's integrated into therapy, you'll see why that tends to be the case. So, okay, so just the agenda, what we're going to be going over today. We did already do introductions. I wanted to hear from the people participating, but there's 35 people and I don't think we'll be having time for that. So later when we do a little bit of sharing with whoever might be comfortable sharing or talking little bits about what they created, maybe then I can meet some of you guys. So the first thing we'll be going over is the neuroscience of art therapy. This is going to be a pretty long section. So after that, I'd like to take a 5-minute break. There you guys can gather any materials you don't have already prepared, or just take a moment to move your body. That can be really helpful. And then after that, we're going to talk about the life enrichment model. That's where we integrate self-care into the model that I explained for the neuroscience of art therapy. Then we'll engage in some application. There are 3 different experientials that we'll do today that engage different neurological processes as described in the next session I'm going to explain. After that, we'll do another break because this can be kind of intense. Then everybody's going to make their own self-care plan. So the idea of a self-care plan is that it's ways that we can increase addressing these different processes or neurological processes in our brains, integrating that into what we're already doing in life. So these aren't meant to be difficult things that we necessarily add on, because most people don't have time to just add on a bunch of stuff into their schedule. That's not very practical. So we'll talk about practical ways to increase that health. And then at the end, I'll leave some time for questions and discussion. Okay. So, okay, so what is art therapy? So art therapy is a therapeutic approach that uses, and I'll just read this definition, that uses the combined power of art making and a therapeutic relationship to meet goals for physical, mental, relational, and spiritual well-being for individuals, families, and communities. So basically what that means is art therapy uses not just the power of art, but also the power of a therapeutic relationship specifically. So there's something really powerful about having a connection with another person who is leading and facilitating this process. And that work with the therapist is fundamental for it being art therapy and not just therapeutic art. Okay, so I like to break art therapy into 2 subcategories when I explain it. The first subcategory is making the internal external. So that's taking what's inside and bringing it outside into the physical world. And then the second category is making the external internal. So that's taking what's in the physical world, or the art materials themselves, the art processes themselves, and experiencing how they then affect what's happening inside our brains. So first, I want to talk about why and how it's beneficial to take what's inside and bring it outside through imagery. And the way we engage with the world is through imagery before we engage with the world through words. So when we're first born, we don't have words to put to our experiences. We just have the experiences, what we see. We have the symbol of mother, the symbol of parent, the symbol of different animals when we start to learn about them, right? Before we are able to name different types of birds, for example, we might learn the name of one type of bird and then call all birds under that name, right? Stuff like that. So as we get older, we then are able to put more and more words to objects and images that we already knew. So even when we get older and we develop language, things still exist pre-verbally as imagery. And so when we make art, things exist more similar to how they already are in our own minds. So there's a lot of value in that, because then we can see analyze, discuss, and even understand parts of ourselves that maybe weren't even conscious. There's this concept called the spatial matrix. And basically, what that means is in your mind, things don't really exist sequentially, they don't really exist in a line. So, our thoughts, our experiences, past, hopes for the future, present sensations all kind of overlap and mix together. When we talk, we organize it into a line. When we make art, however, things are able to overlap, exist, and be presented in all these different ways, which again is more similar to how they are internally, and which can help us make sense of things and understand them again in a way that's a lot more accurate. The second thing, and this is kind of what I already mentioned, is the idea that words actually act as a filter. So that can be really helpful and that can provide different defenses and structures, especially when we have trauma. It can be really helpful to have something like words filter what we do and don't expose, even if it's an unconscious choice or an accidental choice. Words can still be really powerful. The other side of that is that it can be really powerful to have something to engage in that removes the filter of words, because sometimes we can get so used to using words as a filter that we then lose awareness of different parts of ourselves or different parts of our internal world. So that's another way that expressing our experiences and thoughts, feelings, etc., can be valuable in the art making. Okay. So the next part, that the next subcategory is making the external internal. And again, that's how we can use our experiences, interactions in the physical world to impact what's happening in our brains. Okay, so the model that we use for this in art therapy is what's called the expressive therapies continuum. And I'll explain this in quite a bit of detail, but essentially it works addressing 3 developmental levels of imagery creation, and visual expression. Okay, sorry, hold on, the check for me. Okay, and so in each of these developmental levels, there's progressively increased complexity, increased visual expression, and also increased information processing. And this mirrors the stages of development in children as well. So just an overview, and then I'll go over each one in more detail. So if you don't understand or grasp this right away, this is just an overview of what this model looks like. So at the base, we have kinesthetic and sensory expression. Above that, we have perceptual and affective or emotional. And then we have cognitive and symbolic. And each of these works on 2 poles, and it's a continuum. So you can have experience anywhere among the pole that leans more one direction or the other. And then the next is creative. So that is the vertical line, the process that we use to access each of these different areas. So again, I'll go over each one in detail. Okay, so the bottom level we have is kinesthetic and sensory. Okay, so for kinesthetic, this represents just simple motor expression, some amounts of sensory involvement. Again, it's a continuum, but predominantly, and if we look at brain regions that are involved, it's a predominant involvement of basal ganglia and the primary motor cortex. And I'm not going to go in a lot of detail on that. That's kind of just an FYI for those of you who are interested in that part of things. And then going into sensory, when we're engaged in sensory process, it actually decreases and slows kinesthetic action because your attention is primarily on your sensation. Also, it appears to involve primarily the sensory motor cortex. Okay. Some more information with sensory is that it appears to... Is there a way we can... Okay. So for sensory, this appears to be fundamental in imagery formation, the engagement of multiple senses. And this is important because in trauma care specifically, it's really valuable to engage this lowest level of development because it can aid in the release of tension in the body. It can awaken senses and even elicit looking at this quote, elicits.
Yeah, you just told them as you want.
Sorry for the interruption. I
Good.
think that you guys should mute yourself, please. It is requested. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. So something that can be valuable with using, and specifically just kind of a little bit more information about this continuum. We actually organize different art materials and art processes on this continuum. So different materials primarily engage one or more of these areas. And so when we're designing an art therapy intervention for people, we're thinking about what materials is it using and what processes is it going to be engaging. So specifically mentioning engaging kinesthetic and sensory processes in trauma care, it in some cases can elicit pre-verbal bodily memories, which is actually kind of referencing one of the ways that art can be dangerous, especially somebody that has more severe trauma. As you know, when these things can be brought up, it can, if there are not other structures in place, it can do more harm than good for an individual. And this engaging in this level can also establish healthy rhythms. Okay, so some examples of kinesthetic and sensory art processes. A kinesthetic art process can be a scribble drawing. So we're not creating actual imagery. Yes. So we're not creating actual imagery, but we are engaging in an energy release process. So through the act of scribbling, this is a high energy, but we're not actually creating anything that's supposed to look any specific way. Something that engages both sensory and kinesthetic can be the process of pounding clay. So again, you're not creating a specific image, but you're engaging in something that is visual and sensory. Something that might be primarily sensory would be something like finger paint. Again, not trying to create a specific image, but just connecting to the feeling, the touch, smell, sight of the paint mixing together, feeling it on your fingers, stuff like that. Okay. And so I just have a couple pictures here just for reference. Kind of silly, but just kind of, it can help to have a visual image put to the words here. Okay, so the next level up is perceptual and affective. So the perceptual level is when we're understanding figure and ground differentiation. So for children, this is when we start to see maybe there's differentiation of shapes. It's not just scribble, but they're starting to actually create some distinct shapes in different areas. This is not yet the level where there's specific objects being created, such as people, but this is where we start to see there is a clear understanding of separation. Focus here can be on specific features, like I said, differentiation of forms and different lines and colors form boundaries here. Affective is when there's an increased involvement in emotions. This usually is indicated through greater variation in hues and colors. So you can actually assess for the presence of emotion in an individual based on the amount of the intensity of color, the variation in color, and just the amount that's engaged in the art process. So just really quick example here. I did an art therapy process with a group of patients this week where I had them all create a shared mural. And in that mural, each person was supposed to represent their home, but kind of an imaginary home that represent themselves. And they put them all in the same mural to represent their connection as a community with each other and to increase some of that connection. One individual, the artwork that she created, she used every color possible, really intense lines, incredible variation of color. No one else had done that. This individual had a really intense internal emotional experience that was happening as compared to the other people, but she was not expressing that. She was not showing that at all. And so she was appearing to other group members and other people like she was very serene, but under the surface, there's a lot more going on, and that information ended up being very helpful in her therapy. So, I'm not going to go in a ton of detail with this, but the affective level reflects processing of emotions in the amygdala and its influence on the visual stream. Okay. So when we talk about the perceptual and affective interplay, the way they can work together is quite valuable because the affective is amygdala-based information processing, which is more emotional, experiential information. And then perceptual is feature-based information processing, which is more just objective visual information. And so engaging art materials that maybe go back and forth on both of these levels, or leading people through art therapy processes that might engage both intentionally, can help in trauma work for assisting somebody in not being stuck. Okay. So again, just a quick visual to see kind of the difference of these two sides. Okay, so now getting into the top pole, this is cognitive and symbolic. So this is the highest level of development. So in the cognitive level, we see imagery formation actually reflects the ability to formulate concepts, to put things into different categories. There can be problem solving. So for example, somebody who might be drawing a tree, they have an understanding of the different parts of the tree. They're able to either see visually in front of them or from memory what different parts of the tree looks like and be able to replicate that entirely. Okay. So, and this reflects activity of the prefrontal cortex and orbital frontal cortex. So this can be really helpful for emotional regulation, and it deals with affective working memory. So engaging in this type of art making can be especially beneficial for people with trauma because of the way that it's integrated. Okay. So working in, or going into symbolic. So it emphasizes intuitive processing of experiences and visual information by involving sensory and affective sources. So again, we're accessing sensory information, emotional information, autobiographical information, and using symbolism in art to express the combination of each of these different parts of our engagement with the world. Okay. Okay. So then when we talk about the interplay, the cognitive and symbolic, they're actually both required for processing memories. And in trauma work can be used to construct meaningful and coherent trauma narratives. So helping people kind of reclaim their experiences and find a greater meaning when we engage in art on this level. Okay, so once again, this is what the level looks like. And at the very top, we have creative. And so the use of creativity is, we can look at creativity as the vehicle that we use to go between all these different levels. So once we reach a certain level of development where we're able to access, cognitive and symbolic, we don't lose these other parts of experience and ways that we engage with information in our world. So it's valuable to continue to intentionally engage these different areas. When we use creativity, we're able to bounce around to different places and have a certain level of fluidity. When we experience trauma or high stress, we can get stuck in different areas. And so one of the values of engaging in creativity is there's left and right hemispheres are equally active, and it can help us actually re-engage some of those processes a little bit more. Okay. So I just included a quick note on what each thing is in a little picture, because again, as an art therapist, I think I'm very connected to images. I remember things better when I see them. So I just kind of put all this together just to see. So a review: kinesthetic, movement and energy; sensory, primarily touch, smell, and sound; perceptual is pattern and boundaries; affective, emotions; cognitive, thoughts, logic; and symbolic, meaning. Okay, so this didn't take very long, so I'm wondering, and people are still entering, so we might not actually need a break right now. So we might just move forward. And then if we need a break a little bit later, we can do that. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. All right, so now we're going to move into talking about self-care. So how do we apply this information that I just discussed into self-care? And so before I get right into this, this is where I think I'd like to borrow one of the processes from later and make it earlier on. So if people want to go ahead, and if they don't already have their art materials out, please go ahead and do so. You can go ahead and get, you're just going to need one piece of paper and, let's see, one piece of paper and your colored pencil. So not too much here. I'm going to scroll down to the process. Okay. Okay, so give people a minute to get that ready. Okay, so on the top of your piece of paper, so first we're going to identify a color that reminds you of strength. So, something we talked about is colors have an affective and emotional component. And sometimes people tend to think, okay, well, certain colors mean different emotions across the board. And that's not necessarily true. Different colors have different personal meanings for each person. So for you individually, pick a specific color that represents strength for you. Okay. And then when you're ready, at the top of your paper, go ahead and write your personal definition of strength. So we're not, thinking what's an official definition, but how do you see strength? What's your definition of that? And so I'll just give people a minute to write that down. So if you're still working on that and thinking about that, that's okay. You can keep thinking about that while we start looking at the next thing. But now identify one internal resource for strength. So this can be something that you consider part of your personality. This can be a personal value that you hold. This can be anything that you consider inside yourself or a part of who you are that you draw upon for strength. Go ahead and take some time to identify that. And we're just writing this down at the top of the paper. So again, if you're still thinking about that, that's okay. But now identify one external resource. So this can be a person or multiple people. This is anything that's outside of yourself. This can be a behavior. This can be something in your environment, even a physical location, something that's external to you that you draw upon for strength. So if you're still thinking about those things, again, that's okay. Some of this can be hard to think about sometimes, but just kind of keep thinking about it and see what comes up. So now looking at both your definition and the resources that you identified, try to come up with a symbol that might represent strength for you. So this can be a physical object. This could be a place. Really, it can be anything. It's whatever represents strength for you. And so it's valuable to come up with these definitions and these resources first, because these can start to elicit some images in our minds. So maybe your symbol has more to do with the definition, or maybe it has to do with a resource. It really doesn't matter. The idea is that it's your personal symbol. So go ahead and identify that, and then either on the rest of the space on the paper or on the other side, if you would rather more space there. We're going to actually spend 15 minutes, which for some people, this won't feel like enough time. For some people, this will feel like way more time than you're used to. So 15 minutes is pretty standard for group art therapy processes, because it helps kind of strike that middle ground for people with a variety of familiarity with art itself. Okay, so we are going to spend 15 minutes on that, and we'll start now. And so you can contemplate, spend time thinking about it. If you even want to close your eyes for a minute and picture the symbol, and just to kind of get a clear mental image of what that might look like for you. And then going to be drawing that. You can also add if you finish the object or the symbol early, you can add an environment for the symbol, a visual environment for that symbol. And then also the process of journaling, the process of writing out and reflecting after, is really valuable in art therapy if you don't have an art therapist to actually verbally process what you created with, because the putting the visual to words after is really good for integrating the meaning into your life. Okay, so I'll stop talking and we'll go ahead and start if you haven't already. And then I'm going to check in 10 minutes to let you know and I'll stay on the camera, but I'll check in 10 minutes and just let you guys know you have a few minutes left. Okay. So don't worry about keeping track of the time. I got that.
May I ask any question?
Did you say you have a question? Oh,
Femita, do you have a question or your mic is just on? Because I muted you. If you have a question, please unmute yourself.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, please.
The object can be anything, for example, from the environment, like I feel like the sample should be for me, like a tree, so I should draw a tree.
I'm sorry. Your microphone is a little bit fuzzy. I'm having a hard time understanding you.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Femita, can you write? Can you write it in the chat as well?
Yeah, maybe you could put it in the chat.
Okay, ma'am, let me write it down.
Oh, yes, you can draw absolutely anything as a symbol. The idea is that this is personal for you. So there really isn't a wrong symbol to do. I would say the only guideline I would give is wait to, like, maybe don't label it, maybe wait to put words until after you're done with the drawing. And try to just add as much detail as possible. Or I think I heard you mention something about an environment, or even adding an environment to that symbol. So I think a tree is a great idea if that feels personal to you. Awesome.
I'm having a hard time drawing Phoenix.
You said you're having a hard time drawing?
Yeah, I'm just drawing Phoenix and it's like, it's not so tidy. That's okay, right?
Yes, I'm so glad you said that. That's a really important part of this. Skill is really not much of a factor in art therapy, and how good you feel like it looks actually has no impact on how helpful it is at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so yep. And your art skill will be equivalent to whatever age you last made art. So if you haven't made art since you were, a child, for example, you will draw like a child. Especially with drawing, it takes a long time to build skill with that. So don't worry about skill at all. Hopefully that's some good news. And we're about 5 minutes in, so. Okay, for anybody who joined after we started, I'm just going to go back a slide so that you can do this writing and reflective process while everybody else is drawing, because this is a helpful part to do. So if you joined after we started, just go ahead and answer these questions that I have here. And if you need any clarification, you can type it in the chat. And for those of you who joined after we started, who have already done this writing, I'll go ahead and go to the next slide for the drawing part. You guys have 5 minutes left. You guys have 1 minute left. Okay, go ahead and add any final details. Mhm. All right, so we'll go ahead and stop. Okay. So I would love to see or hear some people's strength symbols. I know a lot of you have your cameras off or joining as a group, so it might be kind of difficult. I love it. Art. Anna, do you want to
Anna,
share?
can you put off the blur one so that we can see? Actually, it is colorful. Mine is very, very, very ugly.
I love it. Do you want to share, if you're comfortable, a little bit more about kind of how you identified that symbol and what strength means to you? Hope you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. So basically it's Phoenix, all right? It's I know it doesn't look like Phoenix, but I tried. Okay. And it's not the usual Phoenix, it's colorful because Phoenix is, it's red and there's fire and that's it. But here I think the fire that I have, it's actually colorful. It's not just one emotion or something. So it's representing strength, which is the ability to remain grounded and more, um, you know, um, focused with growth, despite the internal storms or the external, factors. So it's about this, and it is also depicting resilience, the ability to bounce back. And um, the third one that you asked for is just like a support from the mentors and the loved ones. They actually make you alive even if you're burned or you're down or you're having a bad time, but then you emerge. Like, resilience. So this is basically resilience.
Wow, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I love that you said that there's you incorporated more colors. It's like yours is a colorful fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
beautiful.
Okay.
this is not
Any
so
Anna, can you ask other students if they want to share?
yeah, please, I would love these students to just open up their camera and show what have you made. And
Ma'am, can
yes, Famida, you can turn on your video.
mine is not that.
Okay.
Yes, Famida, we can see you. I guess she disappeared. No,
Oh, it's
she's
coming.
here.
Oh,
It's pretty.
It's not as neat as Ma'am Anna.
aw. Do you want to, or if you're comfortable, do you want to tell us a little bit about how that represents strength for you?
For me, wait, the tree stands in every situation. It doesn't matter if it's a sunny day or rainy day or windy day. Uh, like some people say, we people take advantage of it, like we sit under it, and it doesn't matter if a sunny day or rainy day or windy day, it stands by, and that I think it represents strength for me.
Anna, can you understand what she's saying?
Hamida, can you repeat it a bit because I understood a little part of it, but not everything?
Okay, let me. The tree stands in every situation. It doesn't matter it's a sunny day, rainy day, or windy day. It gives people the pleasant environment, and I think it's a selflessly thing. So I think it's for me it represents strength.
Okay, she's also talking about resilience.
Yeah, so I love what
Okay.
I heard you say that the tree is the same in all different weather. Like, you know, it rains and different stuff, but the tree stays the same. Yeah, did I hear that correctly?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's
Okay,
great.
anyone also want to share? Please, you can just give us the heads on and we can.
I do want to give a disclaimer. Most people that I do art therapy with are not artists or even have not made art since they were children. So there is no judgment from me about skill or the way it looks. So definitely so don't
So
any worry.
if no one is sharing, can I share my?
I would love for you to share. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if you guys can see this. See this? This is an
Oh,
elephant. This is an elephant and a tree. And I can send you the picture, Daniel, as well, so
I
that
would love
you can
that.
assess what I'm thinking. But actually, I wrote first when you gave me that right about the strength. So I actually wrote what every one of us think that the way I love and care is my strength, I guess.
Mhm.
And the inner strength, I think, is my resilience. Yes, to never give up. And people sometimes give me very negative comment like, you might be a cockroach, that world will end but you will not end, and you have so much resilience and you have so much ability to not to give up, so you might be a cockroach or something. So I read somewhere in psychology that there is a cockroach theory as well. So I don't know.
No.
And the outer strength, I may feel that this part of the world, maybe in Pakistan, it made me feel like that the world needs me. Maybe there are so less of us, so this world's need me. That's why this is my external source. But regarding I wrote a lot, but regarding the elephant, I think that the protector of the herd and the emotional intelligence, that they actually, how they grieve, how they celebrate, how they have deep memory about all the feelings, and still they are not violent enough that they are not carnivores. They are actually the bigger one, and that's why nobody can hurt them. They intimidate everyone. So this is my idea that maybe I am an elephant soul. And the tree I made is actually, I thought a lot, and I love green and I love forest and I love everything. But the tree which I relate to is neem tree, which is much more giving people the cooler shadow. It is giving people the shade and everything. But neem tree is supposed to be very bitter yet healing, very selfless yet deep rooted. So that's how I actually tried to draw this, and it was all in my mind.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so complex. There's so much meaning there. So many different parts of that. That's incredible.
Yes.
I love what you said about they're the biggest animals, so like nobody can get them, but they're still not carnivores. And
Yes, that's since childhood I was thinking that I cannot hurt anyone, I cannot say anything bad, I cannot do anything bad. So maybe God made these animals so bigger that people are actually intimidated by them, and carnivores cannot eat them because there are so many fastest and there are so many sharp animals in the forest. And if animals can be very small like rabbits, so they could have been finished by now.
wow, I love that. I love that you included two images too. And like two
Yes.
go together and kind of represent strength for you, but in different dynamics. Like kind of the tree you were saying is more like for other people where it's like rooted, but it's also like provides shade and it's bitter, but it's healing. And like that's like the
Yes.
healing is painful, right? Like
And if you visit my house, I'm just sitting here, and if you visit my house, all over the house there are elephants, there are bells of elephants, there are pictures of elephant, my bags has elephants, my accessories have elephants, so they are all over, elephants are all over the house.
That's awesome. That's so good because then you're constantly reminded of who you are. Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Anyone else, if they want to, because it's your time, students, if you want to share anything, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, no need to shy out. I know that you guys do great, so you can always share.
And sharing actually, it encourages other people. So something we'll talk about with in a minute with self-care is there has to be elements of community. You know, a big part of resilience is in community. So, you know, the more people that share, the more that can actually encourage and increase resilience of each other as well.
Yeah, I guess everyone is shy or maybe not sharing in front of us. Maybe, I don't know. That's why to encourage everyone, I just shared.
Yeah.
I'm like the first one who actually shared. Because I was so excited. I just kind of, it's not a big drawing, but I know this thing like after a long.
Can you ask someone to just share, or otherwise,
Yeah,
I
continue.
think there are so many people.
Okay, someone is saying that my
Oh,
camera, I don't know why it's not opening.
okay.
Fatuma, then you can post the picture, take the picture and post it in the chat, so we can see that.
Also, post
Okay, someone is actually sharing the screen.
Okay.
I can stop
Hello.
share.
Hello, good morning. I think it's
This is
morning over
Sandeep.
there. Hello.
Yes,
Hi.
Yeah.
Sandeep, we can hear you. We can hear you, Sandeep.
I just draw myself because I think I'm the strength for myself because I'm here for me and always have a positive energy, like from a negative perspective, from negative energies. So many times hit my spiritual things, and I always have positive energy to show that I could do and I could perceive things like in a change. So many times people thinks that attraction from other things and from sceneries and like that could be strengthened themselves, but I guess I am the one who's the most strength of me. That's why I don't have even electronic pen to draw it properly, but I just draw my with my fingertip on paint. So it's for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So you said it was a picture of you, like you drew yourself?
Yes, I just draw it so quickly and share over here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandeep, for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sobia is saying in the chat that she can show. Sobia, please go ahead. You can open your camera, Sobia, and you can show. Lovely. Sobia, your camera is inverted, so we cannot see now the picture.
Okay,
It was
I have
evident.
gotten a picture from Tuba. Let me show you.
Okay. Sobia, your picture is gone. Your camera is inverted now.
It looks like maybe the connection is frozen.
Anna, can you share the you are sharing the screen or in the chat?
I think I can share the screen.
Here, I'll stop sharing and then you can share.
I'm opening the image and look and then share what is it.
And then Fatima wrote that her camera is not working, but she drew a bridge.
Yes. Let's talk about. Oh, whose is this?
This is Tuba. Tuba, can you speak? And
Sobia is also showing something in the camera, Anna.
oh, okay. Let's
Sobia, can you show us again?
I can stop sharing till then.
Yes, this is mushroom. I think a kind of mushroom or something. Yes, am I right, Sobia?
Yeah, it looks like a mushroom. It's cute.
We can't, if you're talking, we can't hear you, but you could also.
Yes, but Sobia is not mute. Her voice should.
Maybe her microphone isn't connected.
Yes. I think she's online from the cell phone, and that's why there are some problems.
Okay.
Okay. Sir Faraz is talking something.
Oops, sorry,
No.
I muted you, Sarfraz.
Okay.
Okay. Who was the picture that you shared a second ago with the rainbow? Whose was that?
Yeah, do you want me to share the Tuba's again?
Yes, and I would love to hear if they are comfortable sharing about that. Whose was this?
This is Tuba. Tuba, you can unmute yourself. These participants are not so familiar with the Zoom and how it is.
If you want, you can also type a little explanation if you want in the chat.
Yes, like if anyone wants to, like Tuba and Sobia can send their explanation through chat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
she sent me a voice note. Probably her internet is not working properly.
Okay.
Did I clear that?
Or it might not come through, but if you want to listen to it and then tell us.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay.
Yes,
I don't know how well that would work.
Because Anna, there are some
Oh, shit.
communication gaps as well. We are understanding the things people are saying, but I think it's difficult for Danielle to just
Okay, let me listen to it and get back to you.
So, ma'am, I speak.
Yes, awesome. Yes,
So,
go.
so, so my image show a colorful rainbow and a small tree and a cycle. I use 7, 8 colors to make the rainbow stand out. And the pink tree represent nature and adds beauty to the scene. And there is a cycle near the tree, showing that someone might be enjoying a ride in nature. And the picture gives a peaceful and happy feeling, like a day in the park. And I use neat and mute colors to make my image look attractive and creative.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's great. And if we're thinking about the, you know, the different layers, the different levels of the expressive therapies continuum and how different processes, the process of the rainbow. Yes, it was, you know, you had the idea in your mind of a rainbow, a specific object, but the process of having the repetitive movements and the pattern is actually on the perceptual affective pole. And so that's a great example of engaging in that pole, which is one of the levels that's most of the time unconscious. That's where we have like intuition and stuff like that. So engaging that pole is actually quite healthy and can be really helpful in grounding and emotional regulation, stuff like that. So I love that you kind of did that pattern.
Okay, there is another.
Okay, actually, I have a quick question for Tuba. She's able to answer. What did it feel like when you were doing the rainbow? If you're comfortable sharing.
I feel like very happy because today I don't know why I'm so happy. So that's why I make it this. Firstly, I think that I make some difficult thing, but the time is too short. So this image is certainly come to my mind, and I draw this. And yeah, I'm happy, and my mood is nice. So that's why I made this.
That's awesome. I want to point out to other people that the process of creating, and we're actually going to do two more processes, but one of them involves creating these patterns. So this can be creating a pattern like that could be a great coping skill. So Tuba, I would encourage you that even on maybe a day that isn't a good day, still maybe even
Yeah,
recreating the same image and
yeah.
how you feel. Mhm.
Every day is not a good day.
No, you can even maybe, you said you didn't have enough time, so maybe even another time drawing it in more detail if you
To
want to.
tell you, Tuba is actually my student, and she is a beautiful artist. I have something with me that she made. Let me show you. Yeah, it's like wait a minute. Let me here. See that?
Aw, that's beautiful.
So they always put there. That's why I was like super excited to think about, you know, we're having art therapy today.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
there are two more students who shared with me, and there's one in the chat box as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Let's do it. Mm.
Daniel, can you see the one in the chat box?
The one in the chat? Oh, yes.
This one?
Yes. Awesome. Wow. Did you create that just now?
That was fast and good.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I love if anybody doesn't see, there's a description in the chat of it, but yeah, there's really, yeah, I love that about looking at life in seasons. There's so much symbolism all around us in nature that can help us, like, that we can internalize and apply. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Yeah, because each new season always comes, right? Yeah.
Okay, there are two more. This one that I showed earlier, this is by Anila.
Oh, hold on, uh-oh. I did something wrong on my end and I don't see you guys anymore. Hold on a second.
Oh.
I'm not the best with technology. Okay, there you are. Okay, I can see you guys again. Oh, cool.
Anna,
Who's
can you share the screen, because I can see the picture that you have already shown.
Okay, and
The-
there's one more. Just a
Yes.
minute. If you can, yeah. Let me share the screen. Hold on.
whose
I-
is this one with the
So let's just full screen. This one. This is by Fatima.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Just a minute. Okay, here.
Yeah.
Okay. Bridge. Yes, Fatma wrote, I think, in the chat as well, that she
Mhm.
made a bridge.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. Mm. Yeah, there's so much beautiful symbolism in bridges. Yeah. That's awesome.
Fatma wrote something in
Yeah,
the chat.
tolerance and endurance. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and bridges really, you need bridges to get over a river. Like you really can't get through it otherwise. You could try, but it'll move you around, and depending on the speed of the water, you just, can't get certain places. And yeah, there's actually an assessment in art therapy called the bridge drawing. And we actually ask somebody to draw a bridge going from one place to another. And we can use that to assess how somebody sees their own capacity to overcome things, where somebody sees themselves on the journey from their present to their future, or their past to their future. It can show if somebody is overly focused on the past or future, different stuff like that. So, and in some cases, this isn't maybe necessarily an official art therapy thing, but some cases I'll actually ask somebody after they finished their bridge, if it looks kind of frail, I will actually ask them to make it look more strong, and actually add strength to it. And the process of doing that can be kind of therapeutic. Who did this one?
Fatima did this.
Fatima? Yeah, Fatima, I would encourage you to, even at some point when you're feeling maybe low, or you're not feeling very strong, actually draw the bridge again and make it as strong as you possibly can. Add as much reinforcement as you can and really make it strong, and draw yourself on that strong bridge. Could actually be something therapeutic for you to do personally. There's your personal art therapy assignment. Awesome. Great. Who did the tree with the butterfly? I don't know that we got to talk about that one. I saw it up on the screen for a second.
Anna, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Actually, I cannot see everyone on my screen. So there are two windows, because one window is showing half of the participant and the other window is showing half of the participants.
That's how I see it too. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe for now we can move on, and then if anybody else wants
Yes.
to share in the
Yes.
One more actually.
Oh, there's one more? That's great. Yeah, we have time for that.
So Anila is trying out because of the language barrier. Okay, so I'm switching to the other one right now.
That's totally okay. Mm. Hmm. Hmm. And whose is this one?
This one is from Mahin. Mahin, you can speak. But you can unmute yourself. Okay, so she said there's a message as well from her. Define the balance between mind and heart. Oh, okay. I did not read it. She asked me to.
It wasn't, you said it wasn't meant to be shared?
Oh my God.
No worries. Then we won't, then we don't need to talk about that one. That's okay. If she's not comfortable with that. Okay. Great. So, something I would encourage, so, you know, the processes that I have you guys doing today are specifically ones that I created. Well, this one is one that I created. The other ones I did not, but, and my goal is that this is something that you guys can repeat. Often our definitions of words such as strength change as we experience more things, as we become more resilient over time. And so this is something that's actually worth revisiting. Maybe consider, you know, 6 months from now, revisiting as you've gone through more things, maybe, you know, gained resilience, continue to be stronger, or experienced more hardship. How has your definition of strength changed, and how might your symbol have evolved? So this is something I recommend repeating, or even as I was saying about the bridge, creating something that is strong or that looks strong or is visually strong. Because while you're drawing, and I don't know if anybody noticed this, but a lot of the time, the entire 15 minutes, what were you thinking about? Were you thinking about all your problems, all your worries? Were you, you know, sitting there stressed and overwhelmed? A lot of the time, the answer is no. What you're thinking about for 15 minutes is just the concept of strength. And when you're spending time focusing your mind on these things, it can really help get through the day, you know, decrease some of our stress, decrease some of those feelings as we're focusing. And then even thinking about the, and I'll go ahead and share my screen again, if that's okay. Even thinking about the, you know, the different, let's see. Oh,
One of the students messaged me in private. I think you need to
Oh.
put a picture in
Oh, what?
the message, and he said that to share it as well.
Oh, okay. Let's do that really quick then before we do the next thing.
Muzammil made it.
Ooh. Does he want to share?
Yeah, Muzammil, do you want to share, because he gave me the consent to share. Muzammil, are you there? Yeah, yes. Muzammil, you can write in the chat if you want. If you cannot speak, you can always write what this picture is showing or depicting, so that Daniel can have the idea.
पता नहीं ये लोग कहाँ गए हैं
Are you writing, Muzammil? I think, Muzammil, you can write, and we, yes, yes, Muzammil, yes, yes, that's what we are saying. So you are here.
Oh,
And who is this?
This
This
is
is
one.
not Muzammil.
Muzammil is this one.
Okay. Anna, and whose picture was this? That the red and black one?
This one is Muzammil's, the red and black one. And this
Hmm.
is Neil's.
And this peacock is someone else?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. And I love that you drew this in your planner because that's awesome because you can do this anywhere. You know, this is something you can do with just a pen or whatever you have on you as a way to connect back to your strength. So I love that you put this here. That's awesome. It looks like an old planner. I just looked at the date.
Yes, yes. It's 2014.
Yeah, it's not 2014 anymore. But I love that. You could put it in your current planner too.
So
Awesome.
Daniel, I have a question here.
Yes.
What about just regarding these random planners and our meetings and daily, we actually draw randomly things a lot. And this is my habit since childhood that the last page of my notebook always for all the subjects, mainly the science one, and every journal has that these random drawings and everything, the flowers, the trees, and the faces, and everything. I was good at drawing because I was a biology student, so I had to draw. But
Yeah.
the random things that I write and make are so my teachers used to very annoyed that my last page of all the notebooks were like the drawing paper. But still now, when I will be in any meeting, and if I'm not leading that meeting and I'm just a member of the meeting, so all the time I'm drawing.
Yep.
All the things I'm drawing. So is this a kind of distraction all the time? Or it's maybe the expression. Yes, I know it's expression, because my mind is always like getting animated, or the better version of everything that I see. So
Yep.
but how it's like that all the time I'm drawing something, and then I have to hide those papers and pages that I made a mess on all these things.
So let me show
What's the psychology behind it?
yeah. Let me show you in the go back to this diagram. So can you see this diagram that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay. So this you know, so in these bottom four levels, these are often unconscious. These are often things we engage in unconsciously, while the cognitive, creative, and symbolic are often conscious. When we experience high stress, or we are even needing to use a lot of, like, for example, you're learning biology, or you're listening to a meeting, these things have a lot of content that you have to understand. So what can happen is we kind of shut down the affective, we don't connect to the emotions, we shut down the perceptual, the pattern, we don't connect to our physical energy, we don't connect to our senses in order to focus more of our energy in these areas. So the doodling, the little drawing that you're doing is engaging, little bits of kinesthetic and the energy that it takes to draw. But, the little doodles or patterns are often this perceptual level. So, and what that can do is that can actually ground you into the moment more. That can help with emotional regulation. That can help reduce stress. And so I actually will tell people, if you have a meeting that maybe is going to be stressful for you, or a phone call that maybe is intense, you don't know what the outcome is going to be, or even whatever it is, waiting for a test to start, whatever it is that might cause stress, I encourage people to do these little drawings, because it is actually neurologically beneficial. So you doing that intuitively, my guess really probably helped you in a lot of different situations. Yeah.
So we have a thing in the chat by someone,
Yes.
Mazhar Hussain, about the peacock, I think.
Okay, let's see.
And Muzammil also wrote about black and white picture.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, so oh, looks like he deleted the picture, but said we see the world according to
Muzammil had that picture of black and white, sorry, red and black partition of number one and number two. And he wrote about this, I think. Anna can always share that picture.
Maybe for sake of time, we can move forward and then
Yes,
can do the
yes,
fitness maybe
yes.
at the end. But I thank you for sharing about the peacock being a symbol of luck and prosperity. Absolutely. Yeah, and protection. You know, it's good to have these, you know, the symbols of strength sometimes involve like kind of visualizing like a force field or some kind of protection around you to not let the negative energy in. So I love that the peacock kind of influences that as well, or represents that as well. That's awesome. Great. Well, thank you to everybody who shared. That was really awesome to hear. And something that can be really helpful for resilience is sharing stuff like this. So it can feel quite vulnerable, but actually sharing art, even if you don't consider it something that's good, but just, you know, even drawing a symbol of strength and then giving it as a gift to somebody, even if it's a doodle, like being like, you know, this represents strength to me and I wanted to share this with you, can actually be a quite profound connection experience and can really make both people feel stronger. So while that is something that's pretty vulnerable to do, it can be really helpful, especially in times of stress or trauma. Okay, so let me move forward to this next section. I know we skipped around a little bit. So for self-care, the way that we view self-care in art therapy, we actually use the expressive therapies continuum to connect to it. So the idea is that we're honoring the whole self, we're honoring all of those 7 areas. So I've changed the wording a little bit to reflect these 7 areas of self-care. So we have honoring the self through movement and energy, honoring the self through positive sensory experience, through positive emotional experience, through the presence of pattern and boundaries, which can look like routine, honoring the self through engaging our intellect, finding meaning in what we're doing, and engaging in creativity. So we'll talk about each of those things. So something to keep in mind is that all of these levels are connected. The different parts of our brain are all connected with each other. They're not separate. And so the lower levels are some, not always, but sometimes unconscious. We're not really aware. And when we're in really high stress, like I was mentioning, we can kind of disconnect from those levels. So part of self-care means thoughtful engagement with each of those lower levels of development, and that which can help, again, reduce stress and increase emotional regulation. But like I said, it's keyword is thoughtful engagement, right? Because we don't want to, if we're already stressed or we're even in a state of hyperarousal from being in a highly stressful or traumatic or dangerous situation, we don't want to necessarily delve into those deeper emotional experiences at that time. It can actually dismantle some of the protections that your brain is creating to get through it. So we want to be thoughtful about the way we engage in those lower levels. So starting with senses. So this basically means integrating positive sensory engagement into the day-to-day life. So this can be things that are simple, such as texture. So, when you are adding anything new to your life that has fabrics of any kind, prioritizing maybe fabrics that have a nicer texture or that feel good to the touch. Little things like that can increase your positive sensory engagement. Wearing clothing that fits you comfortably, paying attention to the way something feels on your body while you're wearing it. Sometimes we can see. So sometimes we can actually not pay attention anymore to the way something feels or way clothing feels, or maybe even sometimes we can gain weight and then not change our clothing and feel uncomfortable in our clothing. And so being aware of some of these, even just physical sensory experiences and making slight adjustments to increase comfort, and that can actually be a part of self-care. The other thing is positive sense. Again, sometimes we can ignore this, but there's little things we can do that can help increase that. Taste, when you do have choice, sometimes we can go into this, kind of utilitarian when we are really stressed or we're, experiencing something intense. We can go into a mode where we're more utilitarian about the things that we choose to eat, when there even can be slight choices we can make that adhere to our personal tastes. And so not everybody does that, but some people do that. They completely just cut off enjoyment of taste in the process of cutting off senses. The other thing is sound and silence. So being able to check in with yourself. Do you need more presence of music that you like in your life? Or are there moments where you could benefit from silence, but even if it's just 2 minutes of silence, right? And I know if you have children, that can be especially difficult, but having even just 2 minutes of silence can actually make a difference in your overall health in the day-to-day. The other thing is environmental beauty. I love that Sadaf, you were saying including elephants and all around your house. I think she actually maybe got kicked off the chat, but or the video. But even including something like elephants or including your personal symbol, engaging the sense of sight into your day-to-day, even in little ways. Maybe even that looks like drawing a picture of your symbol and then taping it on the inside of your notebook or on the front of your book, right? Like there's little things you can do that don't take a ton of time or energy to just slightly improve some of these daily sensory experiences. Okay. So the next thing is movement and energy. So we're going to move into the next experiential. This one's only 1 minute long or 2 minutes long. So this isn't going to take a ton of time, and we're not really going to be sharing this one. So this being connecting to that lower level of development, the main purpose here is just to notice your current energy level. Again, when you're under really high stress, we can totally detach from even awareness. And the purpose of that is to just survive, is to just get through, right? There's just certain things that you have to do. And so it's quite powerful that our brain is able to kind of cut off our awareness of these things, because it does allow us to get through difficult stuff. But in the long term, it can be really valuable to check in, because then that can help us sustain longer through noticing when either to, on one extreme, you have a lot of energy and you have to release some of that energy, or the other end where maybe you are totally out of energy and you need maybe more rest. So go ahead and get out another piece of paper, and we're going to, if you do have colors, pick a neutral color. This does need to be a more structured material, such as a pen, a pencil. If you only have colored materials, choose one that's like maybe black, brown, or gray, some kind of neutral color. So everybody can go ahead and prepare for that. Okay. Okay. And so now what we're doing is we are literally just creating a scribble to match your energy. We really don't need to spend a whole 2 minutes on this. But you're checking in on what's the energy level in your body right now. So noticing if you have a lot of energy, if you have a little energy, and adjusting the speed that you're drawing to match whatever that is. So this can look like slow waving lines. This can look like an intense scribble, but just matching whatever's going on.
दूसरी एक्टिविटी
So we're just connecting with the level of energy we have. Okay, so you can either keep going while we're talking or finish that up. This is something that can be helpful to do, especially when you're not in a state or situation where maybe it's not actually helpful for you to connect with your emotions, because sometimes you just don't have the capacity for that. But this can be good to at least check in on what your body's needing. And this, if you look at what the scribble and look at it and, ask yourself, does this feel accurate? Does this feel accurate to what's actually happening for me internally? And so that's something to ask yourself and reflect on. So this is something you can do again in your notebook. This is something you can do in the beginning of the day, in the middle of the day, just to increase kind of self-awareness on what your body's needing. Because in order to sustain, longer periods of stress, we have to be able to check in along the way and know just slight things that we can adjust to be able to help us sustain our bodies. Yeah, Anna.
Beautiful to know why, because as I was doing, I just reminded that I have a whiteboard and a marker. So whenever I'm doing something, I'm writing. All of a sudden, I don't know, there's just a scribbling motion and I'm doing, I do it often. I just realized that, I did not know the science behind that. And it's beautiful to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that because it's cool how that happens, right? Like sometimes we do these things automatically, like we intuitively know, and we don't even realize the ways that we're actually engaging with imagery and art as a way of surviving or as a way of getting through or being resilient or all these different things. We don't realize how actually connected as humans we are to these things. So I love that you shared that.
I know why it was so peaceful for me. I just figured out. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so oh, hold on. Here we are. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so another thing to note, and I kind of already mentioned this, but the idea is that self-care for movement also involves stillness. So even just taking a minute, if you're like moving slowly, to just take a deep breath and just like sit in a moment of stillness with your body can be really helpful. Also, even just scribbling more. If you have a lot of anxious energy, fearful, excited, angry energy, this is especially beneficial for anger. Sometimes we don't know ways to actually express anger in a healthy way, or we feel that we need to fully cut off from it entirely. But sometimes the anger energy can be too hard to push away and to cut off. And sometimes we don't know what to do with that. And so actually the scribble process can be a good way to physically release some of that energy in a space that's contained, that's private, and that's non-consequential. It doesn't hurt yourself or other people. So this can be a great tool for anger, especially. Okay. So moving along, we're going to do another experiential. This is talking about the next level of pattern and boundaries. And if you remember, this is the perceptual level of the expressive therapies continuum. And so again, we're not creating actually any specific objects or images. We are just going to create pattern. So we're once again choosing a neutral color. And the reason we're choosing a neutral color is we're trying to remove the affective component of this. We're trying to limit the amount of emotions that we're connecting with. So the purpose of this is we're not connecting with emotions, but we are grounding ourselves in a specific space we're connecting with kind of this mid-level development in order to kind of just ground ourselves. So on a new piece of paper, the first thing that you're going to do is just create several overlapping lines. I have a little example here, but it does not need to look anything like this. So they don't have to be straight lines, but we're just making lines that kind of overlap. And so the reason we are going to take a full 10 minutes to do this is because I want you guys to actually have the experience of getting in this headspace to actually notice what this feels like so that you are more inclined to repeat it outside of this. So it's not just theoretical. Okay. And this will be the last art process that we do for the night. All right, so I'll set the timer. I'll let you know. So go ahead if you already have your overlapping lines. It doesn't have to be any of the patterns pictured here. It can be any patterns at all, but we're filling in each of those spaces that are made by the overlapping lines with a different pattern each. Okay, so I'll let you know when you have a couple minutes left, so don't worry about keeping track of time. We have about 5 minutes left.
Done.
Okay, hold on. I made a mistake here. This I have to refine my screen. Oh. Oh, that's awesome. I'm sorry, I have to stop share and then go back, but that's great. So you guys can keep going while we keep talking. This is a great thing to do while listening to something. This is a great type of doodle that's contained, where you have different sections to fill in. And this also is a cool one because it engages with creativity. With that central hole that allows us to connect to different areas, integrates left and right hemispheres at the same time. Being able to have to get creative and what kind of patterns are you going to put in each section can be really, really beneficial. And if you want to, like mentioned before, in trauma work, it's really important to access perceptual understanding boundaries and more objective things while also being able to access the affective and emotional component. A process like this, you can do this, which is perceptual, and actually play music, like music that has positive emotional association, or even music that does have a heavier, more personal, even sad emotional association. playing that music while drawing this at the same time is actually, you're activating both hemispheres and can be really, really helpful for processing. So that's something in your own personal time, if you've had a really especially difficult day, this is for anybody, that's a process you can do as well. Yeah, great. Well, thanks for sharing the picture of yours, Anna. I'm gonna try. I really don't know why I have such a hard time with technology, but I lost my slideshow. So it's gonna take me a second to pull it back up. Okay, there we go. Now I lost Zoom. Sorry about this. There you are. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna reconnect to that. Okay, awesome. So that was the last actual experiential process that we're gonna do today. But then we are gonna collaborate and make a quick self-care plan in a minute. Okay, so the way that we engage with self-care on the emotional level is really interesting because you first need to know where you're at. You need to know what's your capacity. Am I actually able to unload, process some of these heavier things right now? Or am I still in survival mode and need to just be able to keep going? And if you are in a space where you have to just keep going and you don't have the capacity, time, whatever energy to process the deeper stuff, what you can do is engage in things that increase positive emotional experience. So this can be like what I just said, where you're engaging in this perceptual process while also playing music that is positive and strengthening, empowering associations for you. This can also be engaging in gratitude, making a simple list of things that you're grateful for, making a list of, or even just focusing on one specific thing, person, place that you have gratitude for, and just really focusing on that. Something you can do with the art that'll have some people do, we won't do today because of the amount of time, is you can actually just draw a simple picture of something that you're grateful for. You can set a 10-minute timer and in your journal, notebook, whatever, just draw, even if it's a silly picture, even if it doesn't look like the person or the place or whatever. Yeah. But the entire time that you're drawing that thing you're grateful for, you're experiencing feelings of gratitude. So what you're doing is you're engaging yourself in 10 minutes of positive emotional experience, which can really, really help add balance, especially to a stressful time. So this is something sometimes that I'll do with my patients or even on my own, and it's really beneficial. So the other thing with positive emotional experience is connecting to community. So all of these things can be done in the presence of another person. I highly, highly recommend even just picking another student or picking a friend or a spouse, family member, whatever, even if if you have any children, even sitting down doing this with your child, but both of you together doing one of these processes where you're both drawing your own symbol of strength, or in some cases, even in the same image, both together on the same piece of paper, filling in these different patterns in the different sections, or drawing a shared picture of something that brings strength. And so having these interpersonal connections really increases resilience in a really profound way that goes so much further than we can do on our own. So the process of art making, due to its vulnerability, can be something that allows us to connect in a deeper, more fulfilling way without having to necessarily talk. To put it simply, it can be hard to talk very vulnerably, or it can take time, or in some cases not even be relationally appropriate to talk very vulnerably about some things. And so having a shared art experience can help meet some of those needs of being known and connected with in a way that might be more appropriate for that relationship dynamic, so to speak. Okay. All right. So the next thing is intellect. What you guys are doing today is an act of self-care and nurturing your intellect. The act of being in school, right? Like it's so valuable to be nurturing this part of us. But what we can, and the reason I talk about all the other levels is sometimes we can focus, especially if you're somebody who is highly intelligent, focusing too much on this and then neglecting all the other areas. Or if you're overwhelmed in the other areas, you're going through difficult things, engaging more heavily in intellect to balance things out can help with emotional regulation, even just taking your mind off things. Something that can be helpful is learning a skill that's totally unrelated to your field of expertise, totally unrelated to what you're learning about in school. This can help engage this part of your brain while not having necessarily the stressful associations of a task that I have to get done at a certain time or potential consequences if I learn this thing incorrectly. So learning a skill, even if it's something simple, maybe example, an art skill can be a helpful thing. Here, we can mute him. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Sometimes I'm able to catch it, but all right. So, okay. And so then the next one's symbolism and meaning. And so this is actually what we skipped ahead to and did at the beginning. And this is developing personal meanings for things, identifying personal symbols and putting them around your house, right? Drawing them places, stuff like that. So I would really encourage you guys to try to connect more to the symbols that you all identified today. Maybe that's, like I said before, putting it on the inside of your notebook or even on the cover of your notebook or really wherever, just trying to put this symbol in as many places as possible. Because whenever part of the value of symbols in our brains is it works as like a shortcut for a whole collection of autobiographical information, for sensory information, emotional information. And when the symbol serves as it sits up here and then all the other information's underneath it. So when we identify a symbol that represents all of these positive autobiographical memories, emotional experiences, beliefs, all of these things, that symbol automatically brings up all of that into our mind. So as frequently as possible as we can bring that into the forefront, the more that can help us just in general kind of improve our day-to-day lived experience. And again, sharing this personal meaning with other people. Okay, so we already did this. I'm going to skip through this. Okay. And then the last one is creativity. It's really important to engage in novel experiences that stand out from the day-to-day routine, the things that we repeat every day, something that is unique. And sometimes it takes some creativity to figure out what to add, what to do. Maybe this is visiting a new place that you've never been in where you live. Maybe this is if you're going for a walk, taking a slightly different route, or if maybe this is spending time with a new relationship, even somebody that you want to build a deeper friendship with that maybe you haven't put the time into. Creativity, again, is the vehicle that allows us to access all these other areas. So this is often engaging multiple senses. I actually didn't put a lot in here today, but I can give you guys some resources if you want to look more into it. But engaging in creativity has been shown to increase neuroplasticity, if you've learned about that. So that can help integrate experiences faster, adapt to difficult experiences faster, stuff like that. So creating art is a great way to engage in creativity, creative music, or even just creative writing. So this can be writing a fictional story, just because it doesn't have to necessarily be to have a specific meaning or have a specific purpose. The act of creativity itself is beneficial. Or engaging in poetry. Maybe you've never tried writing poetry. Try it, right? If you do it wrong or you don't like the way it sounds, who's it hurting, right? But it is still engaging you creatively, which is helpful. or even creating recipes or adjusting things just slightly is a way that you can be creative in something that you're already doing. If you're somebody who cooks, this is a good way to incorporate creativity into things you're already doing in the day-to-day. Okay, we already shared our strength symbols. Okay, so I know we're getting close to the end. Do we need to maybe just take 1 minute if anybody needs to stand up and stretch, or just take a little lap around whatever room they're in? Go ahead and do that. We won't take 5 minutes, but it can be good to move just a little bit, or if you have to go to the bathroom, something like that. Yeah.
Session is too engaging.
What?
Your session is so engaging. I really don't want to do anything.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good. Yeah.
I also wanted to ask, okay, so here's the thing. I took a session at some place and the employees there, few of them had ADHD.
Yep.
They had a hard time doing breathing exercises and mindfulness, meditation.
Yes.
And that was like really difficult thing to handle. What do you suggest if I would like to incorporate art therapy for people with ADHD? How do I take it? Should I start with scribbling or something else?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just doodling while talking helps kind of give them some level of stimulation that kind of meets that understimulated kind of thing so that they can engage verbally. I've done that with some people where I have them draw while we're talking. So it can be, let's get out a scribble at the start before we even have the conversation to get some of that energy out if they've got some of the hyperactivity. Or if they're not having necessarily the hyperactivity, just doing doodling. Even the pattern thing that we did can be good. Yeah. Yeah. The doodling and the pattern thing that we did actually can be helpful for people who maybe they're starting to escalate, like they're starting to maybe hyperventilate, or the anxiety maybe the anxiety is starting to get to a certain point. The act of drawing that process can be very helpful to kind of calm that back down and bring them back down. But yeah, the hyperactivity and inattentiveness and ADHD can be addressed with this as well. Yeah, it's a great question. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on. So now we're going to make a self-care plan. So on your last piece of paper, if you have multiple colors, you can use a different color for each one. If not, pen is totally fine. And so I'm going to ask some questions just to guide us to make a specific plan on how we can just do one thing that can address each of these 7 areas. Okay. So the first thing is energy and movement. So how will you engage your body in movement and or rest? And so this is checking in with your body. Which direction do I need more of? Or do I feel balanced? If you already feel balanced, that's awesome. Good job, right? That's a good thing. But do you feel like you need more stillness, or do you feel like you need more movement? And if you need one of those things, how will you, even just for maybe it's 2 minutes of stillness or 2 minutes of quick movement, something like that, something that can be simple. So if you can think of something, you can go ahead and write that down. And we're thinking of things we can incorporate in the day-to-day. That's easy and simple. This could even be, an example could be stretching before a test. It can be helpful to kind of just ground in the moment a little bit. And the next one is senses. So how will you increase positive texture, smell, taste, sound, or sight in your environment? This can just be one thing, a couple things, whatever you can think of that just slightly in the positive direction incorporating into your environment. Okay. And so the next one is understanding pattern and boundaries. So when we think about pattern and boundaries, we can almost think about this like routine and just structure. There's a lot of benefit to having some level of predictability, especially when there's so much unpredictability happening around us. So having something that just, maybe that's having a specific routine you do right before you go to sleep, a specific few steps you take in the exact same pattern every night can increase in just little ways some predictability. Maybe that's if you don't really have a consistent morning routine, that can be making that a little bit more consistent and predictable. This could be really very small things that you can do, but just increasing little bits of structure can really help with the overall emotional regulation and feeling more grounded into the day-to-day. And having some things that can feel predictable. So another thing can even just be, for answering this question, it can even be, I'm going to do the doodling activity, during meetings, or I'm going to do the doodling activity before bed even for just 5-10 minutes at the end of the day to help me calm down, unwind from everything I experienced that day. So those are some simple things you can do as well. And the next one is emotional well-being. So how can you increase your care for your emotional well-being in the day-to-day? This can be, is there somebody you can talk to, especially if you're spending a lot of your time giving and focusing on the emotional experiences of other people? It can be really valuable to try to set some type of balance. And how are you noticing your own emotions? And like I mentioned earlier, if you don't have the capacity, time, energy, space to process the heavier emotions, how can you at least engage in, I misspelled gratitude. How can you at least engage in gratitude or improve some of it in the day-to-day, whether that be listening to the positive emotional music or gratitude drawing, that type of thing. Yeah. And because this is recorded, if you're not able to answer all of these, I believe you guys will all have access to this, and you can go back and create longer answers if you would like to for these different things. Yeah. All right. So the next one is intellect. So is there anything that you've been curious about learning? Anything, maybe it's learning more about art therapy. Maybe it's reading more research. I can provide some suggested reading, some suggested books if anybody's interested in learning more about art therapy in their own personal time. Stimulating this intellect can really be quite helpful, especially as a way to take our mind off of difficult experiences, especially if there are experiences that are really negatively impacting the body. Okay. So maybe write down something that you're curious about, something that you want, maybe a new art skill you want to learn, something like that. So then thinking about symbolism and meaning. This can go back to, I know I keep bringing it up, but that's because it's really valuable. The symbol of strength that you have, and even just who can you talk to? So part of this plan can be, how are you going to connect more with this symbol? How are you going to take steps to even the artwork you made today, put it up somewhere you can see. And is there somebody that you want to share this with? Somebody that you care about, that you think this could encourage? Something that, again, is quite vulnerable, but can be a very helpful thing to do is think about somebody that you care about that may be struggling and draw a symbol for them. Maybe think of a symbol that represents the strength you see in them that they have. A symbol that represents the way that you see them being resilient. And even if it's not, you don't consider it a gorgeous work of art, giving it to them as a gift, as a way of encouraging them and engaging in that community connection. Okay. Okay. And the last thing is creativity. So how can you increase creative expression or engagement in your life? So as I previously mentioned, this can be just creating something new, bringing something new into the world, engaging in art more frequently or writing, anything like that.
Sorry, Daniel, my internet was lagging.
Okay. What part did you miss? Okay. All right. So we've been to discussion. So I can just I'm just going to show these slides again in case anybody missed any of this. And then I would love to hear from some people just for a couple minutes what some of the ideas you came up with were, because sometimes we can be inspired by each other as well. And things that might be helpful. So I'm just going through these slides again so people can see them. Okay. All right. Does anybody want to share anything they came up with that is a way they're going to add some of these things into their life? You can, if you want, you can type it in the chat. I see a bunch of people have been putting their art. I've been kind of scrolling through that, so I love seeing these things. But if anybody wants to just type in the chat and then I can read it out loud, maybe it might be easier. What they want to do to add art for self-care, or at least engagement in these things. Right. I love seeing some of these more structured drawings. That's awesome. If anybody wants, you can type in the chat some of your ideas that you wrote down for your self-care plan.
Can I share something, Daniel, so that I think people can get the idea? Actually, all the things you wrote about the self-care plan, and every now and then I think we are not more structured or know that we are doing the self-care, but intentionally or unintentionally we are doing so. And in terms of when you say that the movement and the sensory things and the so what I actually not intentionally but unintentionally, I think I was doing it since so long that these are now part of my self-care plan is share cooking some good food, enjoying to cook food, the smell and the taste and everything, and to serve that particular food to people I love, and then invite people. So my food is very much popular in all the social circle and the relatives and everything. So I actually and I actually get mad when people say that let it be and let's order the food and everything, because I think it relieves me a lot about uh, and then the second thing, movement. Yes, 10 years back I realized that we are more stagnant. We are more stagnant towards the lifestyle, and we have been the more static one. So I started walking, and but Karachi is a metropolitan city, so we don't have the favorite places to walk and move around a lot. So
Okay.
the green spaces are my favorite one. I like smelling good fresh air and everything, but still Karachi is not very
Mhm.
nature friendly. So it stressed me out. uh, what happened that it was not very familiar with my senses, or maybe I felt so suffocated, I felt so I left that particular vibe. But yes, it was a part of self-care plan. And then the expression, I write a lot. I expresses a lot by writing. I write poetry both in English and Urdu, which is our language. And that is also my expression of thing. And the gratitude, I think I
Yeah.
write a lot. I pay a lot of thanks to people and their existence, more than that I should be doing. But that's my way of expressing things. And I maybe I think that is the part of self-care I do all the time, and this is what make me more uh, grounded. Maybe it's one of the things. So these are the combination of things that you notified and then asked about. But when I was thinking about it, it is a part of my daily routine. And then people actually label me as that you don't do self-care, but I think this is part of self-care that I actually do, because in today's world the self-care is all about the physical attire and everything that
Yeah.
I don't pay much focus on. But I think unintentionally I am born to do self-care in all these ways. And that's why I'm more resilient enough, because I have my all self-care plans embedded in my nature, maybe.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
That's so
beautiful.
cool. I can see that being, oh, sorry, Anna, what were you saying?
No, I was just like, while she was telling this thing, I recognized, yes, I do self-care too. Because although my self-care is a bit different, I'm a fighter, right? So what happens is like the most gentle art in the fights is judo, right? you do throws, and there's a whole art of it, and it doesn't hurt anybody because we're doing all mats and stuff. So every time, my core is engaged. I don't know, there is something about it. Whether I either have this routine, like every night before going to bed, I will go on the rooftop and do stargazing. Even if there's no stars, I would gaze. I would open my application Skyviewer and I'll see where is Jupiter, where's Moon. And it just, and then the way I'm laying down straight, when you were talking about that, movements and things, yeah, I guess I actually do a lot of self-care, but I never recognized that these are the part of self-care. I thought that I would go for the spa day out, that's self-care, or things like that. But yes, as Dr. Sadaf had mentioned, I think yes. So every night before going to bed, I do stargazing. That's my favorite thing to do. And if there's moon, then it's a party time. I love it. I can actually, and there's like on my rooftop, there's a saver edge. Like on the other side, there's floor and the other side. And that edge is specifically a place where I would just, lay down and I can feel the balance and I can, just focus on things. So that's one thing. Another thing is this, I love to, because since I lost my glasses and I am so reluctant to just go and, I get my glasses again, I just realized that I listen to a lot of audiobooks. This is like a new thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that I do and I really enjoy.
Wow. That's great. I mean, and that's probably that's so cool to hear that you guys are both have done it intuitively.
And one thing more regarding the creativity, actually my brain is maybe giving me the whole picture of the world more animated or more sketch as compared to that. I always go through things that this should be captured as perfect photo, and this should be animated. So whenever I get exhausted by the workload, so as I am an educator, more than 20 decades it is. So 2 decades it is. So what happened that all of my lectures and all of my lectures that I made, it always be so colorful, so animated, so virtually attractive that even when I will not enjoy it, how can my students will be? So whenever my mind goes here and there, so I shut down all the work and I do the creative work on my lectures. So this is how I do that. Even my scientific posters are much more animated than the science things. It has graphs, it has all the data, it has all the thing, but it always has animations and colors and everything. So that's how I actually do the creative work or the self-care maybe.
Wow, that's awesome. Because you're incorporating it into what you're already doing. So it's,
Yes.
like you guys were saying, it's not necessarily the, oh, go have a full spa day and all these things that really most people don't have time or the capacity to actually do those things. So it's,
yes.
yeah.
And because Karachi is not very friendly city in terms of we don't have places to go. We don't have certain recreational activities or something like that. The only outing we can do is go to restaurant and eat out. That's it. We don't have places to go. So this is how we need to cope by ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because people have, I think, the misunderstanding of how you actually can incorporate self-care into just, well, you already do. And that's part of the, the title of the model is the life enrichment model. And the idea is self-care is general life enrichment, enriching these parts of our life, so that they're not necessarily so utilitarian, but actually have elements that bring us greater connection to our bodies, greater connection to all parts of our minds, and just overall, even in smaller percentages, just more daily life satisfaction. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I saw that in the chat, Anna said, voice notes, sketchbooks, and mind maps. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, super cool. Yeah, I also write for myself. I write poetry, and that helps me process, different emotional things. And sometimes I'm doing painting or drawing, but sometimes I just don't feel like it.